What's going on, guys? Wow. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya. What an incredible performance. What a night. Um, Man, I was pretty speechless to see Israel Adesanya do that in less than 2 years of being in the UFC. I think like 13 months, 14 months. It's incredible. That guy really deserves where he's at. He's a great champion. He's got a great attitude. He's got stand-up like I've never seen before. The angles, the timing, the deception, the trickery. I mean, he's incredible. The way he baits his opponent, the way he baited Whittaker, the way he capitalized on him and really recognized what Whittaker was doing and then came out the second round. You understand how hard of a thing that is to do. I mean, he picked that up in the first couple minutes. And he was already, he already started to develop a game plan based off of what Whittaker was doing within about 3 minutes, and then he dropped him at the end of the first round. If that round had gone 10 more seconds, I mean, I think Whittaker, it would have been over right there, because Whittaker dropped. He looked like he was out for a couple seconds, and he got saved by the bell. But that was an incredible performance, incredible fight IQ. That's such a hard thing to do, to pick up on what a high-level opponent is doing like Whittaker, to pick up on what they're doing within a minute or two. It's a hard thing to do. I mean, you gotta have a real seasoned fight IQ to pick up on that, and that's exactly what Israel Adesanya has. So we're gonna be going into why he won, what Whittaker did wrong, and maybe what's to come in Israel Adesanya's future. Maybe how he matches up with potential opponents, Gastelum, Costa. Who he's probably going to fight next. Maybe even maybe a rematch with Whittaker. We'll talk about all of it. So let's get into it. All right. So one of the biggest things in this fight that was a very, very big factor, and something that I don't think Adesanya has really faced before. Something that Whittaker hasn't really faced before is Adesanya's reach. Everyone he's fought has not been 6'4", and if they've been taller, they haven't been able to use their reach like Adesanya does. Adesanya is very crafty. His footwork is he never stays on a straight line. It's very, it's one or two steps back, then cut to an angle, cut to the left, cut to the right. It's never on a straight line. And you found Whittaker very overextended, a bit too eager. It's almost like every time he'd miss, he'd want to come back harder. I think also, too, being in front of his home crowd, it's always going to be a factor. You got Chris Hemsworth, you got Thor, you got Australian celebrities in the building, and you're fighting in front of, one of the biggest pay-per-view events probably in UFC history, one of the biggest stadiums. I think there was like 60,000 people, which is, I think, one of the biggest ever. It's a lot of pressure. And so one of the biggest things that we saw that was an issue was Israel Adesanya's lean back, right? And he's very skilled the way he does the lean back. He leans to the right, to the left, to the back, and then he uses his footwork in between it. He does pullbacks. And then he pulls back and he counters, right? And he does an interesting thing where he'll actually like throw a hook while he's pulled back, which is a very hard thing to do. Something that's kind of specific to him, but he'll pull back a little bit and then just come back with a counter check hook. Show some pictures here, or a little bit of video, and that was a big factor, and Robert didn't adjust to that. He didn't start setting up feints. He didn't start doing anything like that. He just kept coming with more power, and he kept doing the big overhand. I think it's like a switch overhand or something like that, and he just kept doing it, and eventually, it didn't end well for him. Now, another thing that was a really big factor was Adesanya's reach. He used his reach very well. And he made it an outside fight. Having said that, though, he did get on the inside and exchange once he had the superior angle, and he really kind of deciphered what Whittaker was doing. So he's a very skillful fighter. He can fight on the inside and the outside. Very multidimensional. Whittaker tends to be someone who does blitzes. He'll throw a strike from the outside, and then he'll start to work his way in, maybe finish off with a leg kick or something like that. But he's fought a lot of guys who kind of just sit there and cover up and don't move that well. And also guys who aren't as tall as Adesanya. Now you have a guy who's as tall as Adesanya and moves like him and doesn't just sit there, and also comes back and counters when you over exaggerate on your overhand rights and your hooks. you got a bit of an issue. And if you don't adjust to that, you don't start throwing feints first, you don't start doing some kind of tricky stuff with the footwork to close the distance, you keep kind of attacking in a predictable fashion, a high-level striker like Adesanya, he's going to get you. And that's exactly what happened. So he used his reach very well, and he really took advantage of Whittaker's just kind of overzealous, too eager overhand rights, and just kind of tempo in a way. He was trying to finish him very quick, and it was obvious he was kind of trying to make a point. But he got caught, and he didn't adjust, and he kept doing the same thing. And after the first round, after the knockdown, it was obvious that Whittaker had slowed down a bit, and Adesanya had really picked up on what he was doing, and it didn't go too well from there. So, main reason Adesanya won this fight is just because, reach, footwork, feints, having a better game plan, and just seeming to understand his opponent better than Whittaker did. It seemed like Whittaker kind of just did what he always does and expected it to be an easy fight, and it really wasn't. And so also just not being able to adapt to what Adesanya was doing. Felt like Gastelum, if I'm being honest, did a better job at adapting, and honestly was, I think, a lot harder fight for Adesanya than Whittaker was. So I think this fight really just came down to fight IQ, and I think Adesanya's got one of the best fight IQs in the game. So that is that. This is a story called Fighting, and I'll see you guys next time.